Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel, my Sunny Bunnies, my sunflowers, and everyone. So in today's video, I'll be doing a soft spoken. It's my first video doing soft spoken, so let me know what you think. If you would like me to do more of these or make this the first and the last. But yeah, I'm gonna be reading you some Christmas stories. So Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you are all having a great day. And I just want to say that even though you didn't maybe receive a gift, you're here today with life, so you have the gift of life. So just want to say Merry Christmas, and yeah, let's try to be kind to each other today and have a great time. So I hope you guys enjoy. I will be doing some light triggers here and there. So yeah, let's get started. This first story is called Santa's Beanbag. Santa's Beanbag by Andrea Kaczmarek. And all of the stories I'll read today are from storyberries.com. So, just exactly what does Santa do right after Christmas? You'll never guess. Alright, so most children are far too busy playing with their toys to even think about what Santa does after Christmas. But in reality, it's very easy to guess. When he gets back to Santa Land, he eats a huge bowl of porridge, his favorite. Then he goes to bed and sleeps for a week. Yes, that's right, a week. And nobody can wake him up. All the elves wear earplugs because his snoring is so loud. The elves and the reindeer usually sleep for a day or two themselves, or maybe 3. Well, they have all been so busy and they are so very tired. Santa doesn't sleep in his bed for his extra long sleep after Christmas sleep. Miss Claus is pleased to say he has a giant extra large beanbag for extra long snooze. He tried a hammock, but he kept falling out. He tried a waterbed, but he was seasick. He tried an airbed, but he was far too heavy. It hissed and it fizzed all night long until it was as flat as a pancake by morning. And Santa had backache for a month. Oof. Santa's beanbag is big and squashy. It is an enormous Santa size, and it is blue with white stars. After Christmas, Santa is a bit fed up with red, as you can imagine. And his red coat and black boots are sent down to the elf's laundry room to be washed. And all the buttons and tears repaired. Climbing up and down the and steering a sleigh at high speed can ruin a red coat. And Christmas stockings are completely banned until next Christmas. So all Christmas stockings are hidden way out of sight. When Santa wakes up with a huge yawn and giant groan, he has a big breakfast, even if it isn't breakfast time. And then it is time to plan the famous after Christmas party. All the elves, reindeer, and Santa just love after Christmas party. At the after Christmas party, there is just about everything that makes it into a special party. There are cakes, sticky cakes with jelly beans and chocolate fudge. There is ice cream, all kinds of special melting tastes. There is a chocolate fountain with fresh fruit to dip. There are games. Everybody has their favorite party game. The elves love bursting balloons, so there are lots of noisy games. Stick the reindeer's tail is always a big hit. The elves have blindfolds and the tails are soft and fluffy and nobody wins. There are lots of games with music too. Musical bumps is noisy too. And everybody's funniest game. Have you ever seen a reindeer bump with a thump into a cushion when the jingle music stops? And then there are presents. Silly presents. The sillier the better. The presents are all wrapped in bright paper, no red. They are piled up high, and all the names of all the elves are put into a big bag. Santa picks one of the presents from a huge pile and then dips onto the bag to pick a name. So who gets what? That's the fun, and nobody knows. There are hula hoops, slime kits, crazy masks, cuddly sharks, soapy bubbles, sticky tattoos, mad hats, whoopee cushions, and lots of laughs. And everybody says this is the best party ever. Well, until next year, it always is. Let's see. And that seems to be the end of the story. That seems like a nice story. I enjoyed it. It's different because I don't think I've ever heard a story where they talk about what Santa does after Christmas, you know? That was very creative. Let's see. So, this one's called Dear Santa by Prarthana Gururaj. I'll put the names either way in the video. So, Mia writes a poem to Santa about the importance of washing his hands, wearing a mask, and social distancing in Christmas 2020. It was time to write the letter. Send it off to the North Pole. Mia sat down with some paper in her sprinkly ice cream bowl. Alright. Dear Santa, she began to write, I hope you're keeping well. Here's my list. She wrote in bright letters, I have so much to tell. The font in here is really big, so I have to keep moving my laptop. Okay. Since last year when you came, Saint Nick, upon your reindeer sleigh, a virus now makes people sick, so we have new rules today. I know you come down the chimney pipe. It's not an easy task. But when you do so every time, please try to wear your mask. And although you have much work to do, traveling to many lands, no matter how busy things might get, make sure to wash your hands. And see, your busy working elves are wearing masks and gloves, and that they stand 6 feet apart, making gifts for those we love. I hear the scientists are working hard to find the virus cure. Healthcare workers are busy too. Please leave them a gift for sure. I hope and pray the world feels better. Please bring us hope and peace. Dear Santa, don't forget this letter. And the things on my list, please. Let's see. They have pictures here, so okay, that's it. That's a nice poem. It was a poem, was it? And they write pretty well, so let's see. So this child always forgets what to do when they always forget when their mom tells them to do something, but then this year Santa forgot. So how the tables have turned, huh? Okay, it's called Santa Never Forgets by a vintage author. That's what it says. Oh, I guess they remain anonymous. Alright. Okay, let's get started. Birdie was a very good boy. He was kind, obedient, truthful, and unselfish. He had, however, one great fault. He always forgot. Oh, and by the way, this is your string that says ho ho ho, ho ho ho, ho ho ho. Because I had Christmas triggers, so I swear this is a Christmas trigger. No matter how important the errand, his answer always was, I forgot. When he was sent with a note for his teacher, his mother would find the note in his pocket at night. If he was sent to the store in a great hurry to get something for tea, he would return late without the thing he was sent for, but with his usual answer. Oof. Come on, Birdie. His father and mother talked the matter over and decided that something must be done to make the little boy remember. Christmas was near and Birdie was busy making out a list of things which Santa was to bring him. Santa Claus may forget some of those things, said his mother. He can't, replied Birdie, for I will write sled and skates and drum and violin and all the things on this paper. Then, when Santa Claus goes to my stocking, he will find the list. He can see it and put the things in as fast as he reads. Alright. Let's see. Christmas morning came, and Birdie was up at dawn to see what was in his stocking. His mother kept away from him as long as she could, for she knew what Santa Claus had done. Ooh, let's see. Finally, she heard him coming with slow steps to her room. Slowly, he opened the door and came towards her. He held in his hand a list very much longer than the one he had made out. He put it in his mother's hand, while tears of disappointment fell from his eyes. See what Santa Claus left for me. He could have at least given me one thing. His mother opened the roll. It was a list of all the errands Birdie had been asked to do for 6 months. At the end of all was written in staring capitals, I forgot. Uh-oh. And let's see, the list says, doing one kind thing every day, dressing yourself without being asked, helping feed the cat, being tidy. Alright, Birdie wept for an hour. Then his mother told him they were all going to Grandpa's. For the first time he could see a Christmas tree. Perhaps something might be growing there for him. It was very strange to Birdie, but on Grandpa's tree he found everything he had written on his list. Was he cured of his bad habit? Not all at once, but from that day forward, whenever his mother saw that he was not listening to her, she would say, "Remember, Santa Claus does not forget." That's a good lesson. That's a good lesson indeed. Alright. Do Turtles Have Christmas by Templeton Moss. So, I have this little bag, and it's just Santa Claus, so I'll just be touching this. So, Greg got up that morning, the same as always. He looked around his room with its tall, clear walls and went to get a drink from his dish. As he shook off the last bits of sleep, he looked out his wall to see what the people were doing. They were putting decorations all over the house. Big red and green things that Greg didn't understand in particular. A lot of them seemed to show a big fat guy in red pajamas and a white beard. Molly was asking her big sister, Mabel, a lot of questions. Is he really gonna come tomorrow night? Of course he is. You wrote him a letter, didn't you? Yes, but are you sure he read it? I told you, Molly, Santa visits everyone who writes him a letter. But how does he do it all in one night? Magic, of course. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think he can freeze time or something. Wow! There were a lot of words that Greg had never heard before. Santa, Christmas, Rudolph, some king or other called Nat. It was all very confusing to Greg. Luckily, that day, Molly reached into Greg's room and picked him up to show him something. Look how beautiful our tree is, Greg. Greg looked and saw a large evergreen tree inside. The house covered in colored lights and other ornaments. He had to admit it was beautiful, but he didn't exactly know what it was for. And tomorrow night, Santa's going to come and leave us presents for Christmas. And I asked him to bring something for you too, even though I don't know what turtles want for Christmas. Well, I'd better put you back. I have to go help Mommy in the kitchen. It was a very confusing turtle. Wait, hold up. It was a very confused turtle whom Molly returned to his room a moment later. Christmas? What's Christmas? And who is this Santa who's supposed to bring me something? It was very overwhelming. But that night, many of his questions were answered. His room happened to be in such a place that it faced the TV. So when the girls watched a movie called A Christmas Carol, he learned a lot about this Christmas business. Evidently, Greg concluded it's a holiday that happens in the winter, where everyone gets together and eats and drinks and has lots of fun and gives each other presents. It sounded nice, but it still left Greg with one burning question. Do turtles have Christmas? The holiday, it seemed, had very had some. It seemed had sorry. The holiday, it seemed, had something to do with a little baby called something with a J. He couldn't remember, but the impression that Greg got was that this Christmas was this baby's birthday. Did you have to know the baby to celebrate? Are turtles allowed to celebrate? It seemed to have a lot to do with presents. It was still Christmas if you didn't get a present or give one. Greg spent much of the night pondering with these questions, and the next day, which Molly was called Christmas Eve, the girls watched some more movies and shows which told Greg a little more about the holiday. This Santa fellow lives in the North Pole, and on Christmas Eve, that's tonight, he thought with some excitement, he flies in a magic sleigh pulled by 8 flying reindeer and delivers gifts to all the good little boys and girls. And his heart sank. Boys and girls, not turtles. He was a boy turtle, sure, but he had the clear impression that this is not what they meant. Oh well, he thought, as he watched another show about a snowman with a special hat. No Christmas for me. That night, Greg was awakened by a strange sound, a sort of thud as if something had landed on the roof. Greg was frightened. If it was burglars, he was ill-equipped to do anything about it except hope and pray that turtles were not valuable on the black market. But when he heard another sound, bells, very small bells, he remembered from his TV research that Santa's sleigh had bells on and off that landed on rooftops. Am I going to see Santa Claus? He did. Santa came down the chimney and set about his work, putting packages under the tree, eating milk and cookies, filling the stockings. Greg watched him, transfixed, the bright smile, the red suit, the white beard. He's just the way I thought he'd be, said Greg to himself. I may not get any presents, but it's enough to get to see him. And then, just as Santa was about to leave, he turned his head in the direction of Greg's room. He looked at the turtle and smiled. Well, hello there, Greg, he said as he walked over to him. You don't remember me, do you? Well, you wouldn't, I guess. You were very small when I brought you here. You see, you were Molly's Christmas present last year, and she asked me to make sure you got a present this year. Don't look surprised, said Santa kindly at Greg's reaction. Didn't you know? Christmas is for everyone, and you'll get a present too, but only if you go right to sleep. Now, rules are rules. If you want your present, you'll have to just wait till morning. Greg shut his eyes obediently and tried to fall asleep. That's better. Now, don't open them till tomorrow. And Merry Christmas, Greg. He heard Santa play something inside his room and creep away. In another moment, he heard the sleigh bells. He muffled the cry of Santa, and then nothing. Santa was gone. It was tempting, but Greg kept his eyes shut until he fell asleep. Merry Christmas! Greg woke to the joyous cry of Molly and Mabel as they ran downstairs for their presents. Their parents followed, somewhat less enthusiastically, but still all smiles. Greg watched through the walls of his room as the girls opened their presents and showed them off to their parents. It was a wonderful scene, and Greg was very happy to have seen it. Look, said Molly suddenly. Santa left something for Greg too. Greg had almost forgotten, with the great effort that it took him to move at all. Greg turned around and saw a great big head of lettuce, and it was all for him. As Greg began to munch on the crisp green leaves, he thought of what Santa had said to him before he left. "Merry Christmas, Santa," he thought, "and thank you for the best Christmas I've ever had." That's a really sweet story. Alright, I'm gonna read a story of the Christ child, and if it's short, I'll read the other one. Alright, a story of the Christ child by Elizabeth Harrison. Once upon a time, a long time ago, on the night before Christmas, a little child was wandering all alone through the streets of a great city. There were many people on the street, fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers, uncles and aunts, and even gray-haired grandfathers and grandmothers, all were hurrying home with bundles of presents for each other and for their little ones. Fine carriages rolled by, express wagons rattled past, even old carts were pressed into service, and all things seemed in a hurry and glad with expectation of the coming Christmas morning. From some of the windows, bright lights were already beginning to stream until it was almost as bright as day. But the little child seemed to have no home and wandered about listlessly from street to street. No one took any notice of him except perhaps Jack Frost, who bit his bare toes and made the ends of his fingers tingle. The north wind too seemed to notice the child, for it blew against him and pierced his ragged garments through and through, causing him to shiver with cold. Home after home he passed, looking with longing eyes through the windows and upon the glad, happy children, most of whom were helping to trim the Christmas trees for the coming morrow. "Surely," said the child to himself, "where there is so much gladness and happiness, some of it may be for me." So with timid steps he approached a large and handsome house. Through the windows he could see a tall and stately Christmas tree already lighted. Many presents hung upon it. Its green boughs were trimmed with gold and silver ornaments. Slowly he climbed up the broad steps and gently rapped at the door. It was opened by a large manservant. He had a kindly face, although his voice was deep and gruff. He looked at the little child for a moment, then sadly shook his head and said, "Go down off the steps. There is no room here for such as you." He looked sorry as he spoke. Possibly he remembered his own little ones at home, and was glad that they were not out in this cold and bitter night. Through the open door a bright light shone, and the warm air, filled with fragrance of the Christmas pine, rushed out from the inner room and greeted the little wanderer with a kiss. As the child turned back into the cold and darkness, he wondered why the footman had spoken thus, for surely those little kids would have loved to have another companion join him in their joyful Christmas festival. But the little children inside did not even know that he had knocked on the door. At the door, The street grew colder and darker as the child passed on. He went sadly forward, saying to himself, "Is there no one in all this great city who will share the Christmas with me?" Farther and farther down the street he wandered, to where the homes were not so large and beautiful. There seemed to be little children inside of all nearly I can't speak. There seemed to be little children inside of nearly all the houses. They were dancing and frolicking about. Christmas trees could be seen in nearly every window, with beautiful dolls and trumpets, and picture books and balls with tops and other dainty toys hung upon them. In one window, the child noticed a little lamb made of soft white wool. Around his neck was tied a red ribbon, and it had evidently been hung on the tree for one of the children. The little stranger stopped before this window and looked long and earnestly at the beautiful things inside, but most of all he was drawn toward the little white lamb. At last, creeping up the window pane, he gently tapped upon it. A little girl came to the window and looked out into the dark street where the snow had now begun to fall. She saw the child, but she only frowned and shook her head and said, "Go away and come some other time. We are too busy to take care of you now." Back into the dark, cold streets he turned again. The wind was whirling past him and seemed to say, hurry on, we have no time to stop. This Christmas Eve and everybody is in a hurry tonight." Again and again the little child rapped softly at door or window pane. Each place he was refused admission. One mother feared he might have some ugly disease which her darlings would catch. Another father said he had only enough for his own children, none to spare for beggars. Still another told him to go home where he belonged, and not to trouble other folks. The hours passed, later grew the night, and colder grew the wind. The darker seemed the street. Farther and farther the little one wandered. There was scarcely anyone left upon the street by this time, and the few who remained did not seem to see the child, when suddenly ahead of him there appeared a bright single ray of light. It shone through the darkness into the child's eyes. He looked up, smiling, and said, "I will go where the small light beckons. Perhaps they will share their Christmas with me." Hurrying past all the other houses, he soon reached the end of the street and raced straight up to the window from which the light was streaming. It was a poor little low house, but the child cared not for that. The light seemed still to call him. From what do you suppose the light came? Nothing but a tallow candle which had been placed in an old cup with a broken handle in the window as a glad token of Christmas Eve. There was neither curtain nor shade to the small square window, and as the little child looked in, he saw standing upon a neat wooden table a branch of a Christmas tree. The room was plainly furnished, but it was very clean. Near the fireplace sat a lovely-faced mother with a little 2-year-old on her knee and an older child beside her. The two children were looking into their mother's face and listening to a story. She must have been telling them a Christmas story, I think. A few bright coals were burning in the fireplace, and all seemed light and warm within. The little wanderer crept closer and closer to the window pane. So sweet was the mother's face, so loving seemed the children, that at last he took courage and tapped gently very gently on the door. The mother stopped talking. The little children looked up. "What was that, Mother?" asked the little girl at her side. "I think it was someone tapping on the door," replied the mother. "Run as quickly as you can and open it, dear, for it is a bitter cold night to keep anyone waiting in this storm." "Oh, Mother, I think it was the bough of the tree tapping against the window pane," said the little girl. "Do please go on with our story." Again the little wanderer tapped upon the door. my child," exclaimed the mother, rising. That certainly was a rap on the door. Run quickly and open it. No one must be left out in the cold on our beautiful Christmas Eve. The child ran to the door and threw it wide open. The mother saw the ragged stranger standing without, cold and shivering, with bare head and almost bare feet. She held out both hands and drew him into the warm, bright room. "You poor dear child," was all she said, and putting her arms around him, she drew him close to her breast. "He is very cold, my children," she exclaimed. "We must warm him. And," added the little girl, "we must love him and give him some of our Christmas too." "Yes," said the mother, "but first let's warm him." The mother sat down by the fire with the little child on her lap, and her own little ones warmed his half-frozen hands in theirs. The mother smoothed his tangled curls, and bending low over his head, kissed the child's face. She gathered the three little ones in her arms, and the candle and the firelight shone over them. For a moment the room was very still. By and by the little girl said softly to her mother, "May we not light the Christmas tree and let him see how beautiful it looks?" "Yes," said the mother. With that she seated the child on a low stool beside the fire, and went herself to wedge a few simple ornaments, which from year to year she had saved for her children's Christmas tree. They were soon so busy that they did not notice the room had filled with a strange and brilliant light. They turned and looked at the spot where the little wanderer sat. His red clothes had changed to garments white and beautiful. His tangled curls seemed like a halo of golden light around his head. But most glorious of all was his face, which shone with light so dazzling that they could scarcely look upon it. In silent wonder they gazed at the child, with little rooms seemed to grow larger and larger, until it was as wide as the whole world. The roof of their low house seemed to expand and rise until it reached the sky. With a sweet and gentle smile, the wonderful child looked upon them for a moment, and then slowly rose and floated through the air, above the treetops, beyond the church spire, higher even than the clouds themselves, until he appeared to them to be a shining star in the sky above. At last he disappeared from sight. The astonished children turned in hushed awe to their mother and said in a whisper, "Oh, Mother, it was the Christ child, was it not?" And the mother answered in a low tone, "Yes." And it is said, dear children, that each Christmas Eve the little Christ child wanders through some town or village, and those who receive him and take him into their homes and hearts have given them this marvelous vision which is denied to others. And that's it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. I hope you guys enjoyed the soft spoken and the light triggers in the background. So yeah, Merry Christmas everyone. I hope you guys have a blessed day filled with lots of happiness, of joy. And if you feel lonely this Christmas, you can just send me a message and we can talk, make it feel not so lonely, because I'll always be here for you guys, and I make these videos to help you fall asleep and just have someone. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me here today, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.